Hello ladies and gentlemen, how are you? My name is Attorney Charles Zavala. I'm an immigration lawyer here in beautiful Houston, Texas, but we can help you no matter where you are in the USA or even internationally if it has to do with USA cases. So the reason of today's video is how somebody can get their green card or their legal permanent resident through work. More specifically, we will be talking what's called an EB2 visa. EB just stands for employment based. There's EB1, there's EB2, there's EB3, there's different stuff for different types of people, but this one's specifically for the EB2, and then I'll also talk about what's called a National Interest Waiver at the end of it, which means that if you qualify for a National Interest Waiver, you don't need an employer to sponsor you. So you can sponsor yourself, which is great. Not everyone qualifies for it though, so I'll make another video more specific to the National Interest Waiver, and I'll briefly talk about it at the end of it. So let's pretend you want to come to the USA, or you have an employer who wants to sponsor you or something along those lines. Our job is to first figure out which visa category do you fit under. There's different ones for different things, but like I said, this video is going to be about EB2 and how to get your green card. So to qualify for the EB2, we have to show one of two things. So A, we either have to show that you have an advanced degree, and I'll explain to you what that means, or you have an exceptional ability. One of those two. If we can show both, great, but we only need to do one of those. So for an advanced degree, we can show that if you have any sort of degree post bachelor's or baccalaureate, that can qualify. So that could be your master's, your PhD, JD, there's tons of things that you can get after your bachelor's. If you get one of those, that can satisfy your advanced degree. But the other way you could also show you have an advanced degree is if you do have a bachelor's and you've worked 5 years of experience in that career. That could also show you an advanced degree, right? So the way you show an advanced degree is either any degree post-bachelor's, post-baccalaureate, or your bachelor's and 5 years experience in that, not profession, but in that career, in that field. That's how you show you have an advanced degree. But remember, it's not only an advanced degree. We work with a lot of people and a lot of businesses who they don't fit under the advanced degree, but they fit under exceptional ability, okay? And for the exceptional ability, there's a little bit of wiggle room they give us. So we have to show 3 of the following. And the list is kind of long as to what we can show, but we only have to show 3 of them. So I'm gonna give you kind of the basic ones. 1, if you have over 10 years experience in your career, that can satisfy one of the 3, okay? So if you have been 10 years, fantastic. 2, do you have a certificate or some sort of, I guess certificate would be the easiest one. Do you have some sort of certificate or some license that allows you to do your profession, right? For example, we work a lot with pilots. Pilots have a license to do their job, right? So if you have a license or certificate that allows you to do your job, nurses, we bring them over under advanced degrees, or we could do an exceptional ability, sorry. But yes, as you have a license or a certificate to do your job, that can satisfy it, right? 3rd one is, are you part of any professional associations, right? Are you part of any groups, any part of, I'm trying to think, like associations or committees or anything a lot that has to do with your profession. And a lot of people are. I mean, me being a lawyer, I'm part of some associations where I'm just part of a member. I have to, I get emails, things along those lines. So if you have that, that could also work. Another thing that I think is kind of a fun one is your salary, right? Have you been paid an amount that would suggest you have an exceptional ability, right? And this is kind of a little bit of wiggle room because it depends on what career profession you're in. But if you could show that you were paid a salary that is commensurate with an exceptional ability, that can also work, right? Another thing, if you have friends, peer reviews, people who could say, look, this person does have an exceptional ability. They are beyond what the average person in this industry does, that can also be a way, right? So we can get a little creative with the exceptional ability. So let's pretend we satisfy that. Let's pretend we either show you have an advanced degree or an exceptional ability. Fantastic. Now you are eligible for the EB2 visa. So assuming you have an employer, and if you don't have an employer, maybe you can qualify for the National Interest Waiver, which I'll talk about later. But if you have an employer, what the employer has to do, it's really a 2-step, maybe 3-step process depending on where you are. Step 1 is we have to get a labor certification from the Department of Labor. It takes time, which is kind of nice why the National Interest Waiver is better, because you don't need to do this. You can just jump the line. But we have to get a certification from the Department of Labor. Once they approve us, then we go to immigration to get you your we would be filing your petition, all that stuff. And the good thing about an EB2 is this. Normally when you're with immigration, it could take close to a year, and that's just with immigration. Department of Labor is about a year, immigration's about another year. But they do offer you what's called premium processing, which means if you pay an extra $2,500, USCIS, that's the government agency who handles the immigration, they will do your application much faster. And I think it's totally worth it, right? So that could speed up the time process. Assuming everything goes well, you will then be approved. If you're outside of the USA, you would go to an interview at the consulate. If you're inside the USA legally, we could do the adjustment while you're here. So that is how you would get an EB2, right? Which could give you your legal permanent residence. You have to have an employer sponsoring you, and you have to meet the advanced degree or exceptional ability. Unless you qualify for what's called a National Interest Waiver. And I'll briefly explain what a National Interest Waiver is, because I'm gonna make another video about this going into more detail. But if you can show that your career, your profession, what you're coming to do to the USA is of national importance, the government will say, okay, you know what? You don't need to go with the Department of Labor. You don't need a job offer. You don't need the labor certification. You can go ahead and apply on your own, which is fantastic because that cuts time. It's going to also cut money, and 2, you don't need an employer. So if you qualify for the EB2 and the National Interest Waiver, you can apply on your own. And that's something we've been doing with certain professions. We've been doing it due to COVID, a lot of pilots, commercial pilots, freight pilots, and also instructors. I'm not saying only pilots are part of this, but also engineers. Depending on what you do, we can kind of fit you guys in, okay? So that is what's very important. Also nurses. So depending on what your profession is, call me, let's talk. You know, the phone number's on the screen. Every appointment's gonna be with me personally on the phone, and we can discuss if we can bring you another EB2, and if possible under the National Interest Waiver. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe, like, give us a call. Any questions you have, I will answer them. My name is Attorney Charles Zavala. Thank you and have a beautiful day.